Three-time international best-selling author, inspirational speaker, and confidence coach, also known as the Queen of Shine. Dorothy-Inez helps high-achieving, heart-centered female solopreneurs show up and shine with confidence, with the inside out, beginning with the power of self-love and beauty. She facilitates transformational workshops along with group and private coaching programs. She also holds a master's degree in organizational psychology. And when she's not working with clients, she's studying spirituality, watching movies, and listening to her favorite Prince music. So help me welcome Dorothy-Inez.
Thank you. Oh, the mic is on. See, I almost had to say Kimberly. You said Dorothy. And so did Ella caught it. Ella said she called you Dorothy. For those of you that don't know, we have a joke. My first name is Dorothy-Inez, just so you don't make the mistake of calling me Dorothy as well. It happens every single day. Hey, Helena, I see you. So I'm so excited to be here. I come here probably like once a quarter or so and come and speak. And for those of you that don't know my style is more engaging. So you're part of the message. So I invite you when I ask questions to participate, because I'm not the only person, who knows anything. We all collectively bring wisdom to the table. So I invite you to share. Only when I ask questions, though. So today I'm excited to talk about finding inspiration. And so how many of you struggle at times with finding inspiration? Yeah, there's those times. I hate using this. I wish Gary could be my clicker, my clicker up there, because I always mess it up. There we go. What are some of the challenges you find when you're trying to find your inspiration? What are some of the challenges that you've had? Yes.
My biggest challenge is not finding it, but following through with it.
I heard him. He said following through. It's not for him, it's not finding it, it's following through with it. Who else can relate with that? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you some tips, because a lot of times inspirations come through and we don't follow through with them. And we're going to talk about the reasons why we don't follow through with them. And since we've been on this topic of finding inspiration all month, some of the things I share might be a repeat. And there's a reason that we need a repeat, because we need to keep hearing it over and over. Or some of it might seem, well, dang, this is basic. I already knew that. But are you applying that? Okay? And so, see what I mean about this clicker? Okay, good. What is inspiration? Let me get my own screen going. No, actually. Hold on, we did skip a... Oh. Goodness gracious. There we go. So, let's look at what the purpose of today is to understand how both spiritual and practical inspiration can help create a life of purpose and fulfillment. And we're also going to go, like I said, over some actionable steps that you can take every day to have inspiration in your life, because inspiration actually is always around us, but we have to practice being aware of it, being present to it. So what is inspiration? Inspiration, by definition, is the spark that ignites creativity, ignites purpose, and growth. It's what moves us beyond our limitations, because oftentimes inspiration is inviting us to do something that we've never done before. And the word inspiration comes from in spirit. And then when I did a little more, study on it this morning, it said inspiration is God-breathed. God-breathed. And that just was like, wow, because when you think of inspiration in spirit, that these ideas are coming to you from on high. They're coming to you from within yourself, that which is connected to the thing that is greater than yourself. So the types of inspiration. We have spiritual inspiration. That's the inspiration that comes from, like we just talked about, the higher power. Some call it your intuition. Divine moments. Have you ever been out somewhere and you get that they called it, that spark? An idea comes through. You were out in public or you heard a thought. You saw an image and you were inspired by that. Practical can be found in your surroundings, in nature. How many of you get inspired when you go out in nature? That's a great place to go to get that divine spark, because it puts you in this space of relaxation and openness. And that allows for inspiration to come through. Other people. How many of you get inspired when you're sitting and you're talking with a friend and you start bouncing ideas? As an entrepreneur, that's where I find a lot of my inspiration, from my friends, because our spirits are connecting and we're bouncing off of each other. Or how many of you have listened to your favorite artist, your favorite musician, or gone to a museum and you've seen these works of art and it sparks an idea within you? And how about doing something that you love? Like painting. Again, it gets your mind into this meditative state. See, what I've discovered is when we are in our creative state, we are in what I call our God state. When you're creating, you're doing what the Most High does, creates. And that invokes that creativity within you. How many of you have experienced that? When maybe you're painting, you're journaling, you're writing, and more inspiration and ideas begin to open up for you, right? So, the role of spirituality in finding inspiration. How many of you believe that inspiration does come from spirit, something greater than yourself? Yeah. So ways that we can do that is through connection with God and Source. It's that opportunity to receive divine guidance, divine wisdom, and the wisdom of your own journey. Like when you go through life and you have things happen, sometimes those things inspire us to create solutions. One of the things I've learned from my mentor, one of my spiritual mentors, Michael Bernard Beckwith, of Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles, he would always say, life is always happening for you, never to you. Life is always happening for you, never to you. Who can tell me what that means? What comes up for you when you hear that?
You say, it's for you is a very positive way of looking at it. And to you isn't necessary. It's empowering, whereas to you is disempowering.
Yes.
And often taps into victim mentality.
You said it right there. I teach my girls. These are my girls over here, by the way, Eula and Lola. I tell them, life is always happening for you, never to you, because you are no one's victim. We have someone back here.
The other thing is you create your own life, which is, I think, probably one of the most important things in our lives. If we forget that we're creating our own stuff that shows up, including the shitty stuff, then, we're just victims instead of living, right?
Right.
So we receive what we produce, what we expect, what we, state.
Exactly. Thank you. And I share that with you because you can take these things. I always think about the woman. You can take these. Let me finish my sentence. I have ADHD, so I tend to cut myself off. You can take these things that happen in our lives and you can see them as negative, or you can allow them to inspire you. So I remember the story. Have you all heard of DARE? I think it's, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And that was created by a woman who lost her son and she wanted to do something with it. Now, she could have stayed bitter and angry and all of that, but she allowed that tragedy to be an inspiration, to inspire her to create something that could give back to others and help others. So you can take life situations, good and bad, perceived bad, because another thing I learned is there really is no good or bad, it just is. And what are you going to do with the is? Okay? So, having faith, having trust, excuse me, having faith in the higher power or purpose helps us to stay open to divine inspiration. And now, I always see each other. One of the things that I've learned in my journey, again, from Reverend Michael, is our oneness. So when, a lot of times we think of God, source, out there, when really it's right here. Wherever I am, God is. The very ground I stand on is holy ground. All the creativity of the universe lives within me, lives within you. But do we choose to tap into it? Are we doing the things that allow us to tap into the creative source? And when we connect with each other, that's why community is so important, because the God in me connects with the God in her, and that becomes powerful, more powerful than just doing it by myself. Having daily practices like prayer and meditation. Who knows the difference between prayer and meditation? Prayer, speaking, generally beseeching source for something. Meditation is going within. Going within, getting insight. Reading spiritual literature, spiritual books, reading even nonfiction books, fiction books. Reading can inspire us. And simply being still. One of the things I recently opened myself up to is my brother recently passed at the beginning of the year. And it was very devastating. I found myself not in a really good headspace. And I needed to hear from my brother because it was sudden. And one of the things, I'd never believed in channeling, hearing from the other side. From my Christian tradition, I was taught that's the devil. Don't tap into that. But I took myself on a retreat, and I opened up myself through the gift of silence. And I sat there and I said, speak to me. I'm here. Because a lot of times we close ourselves off, so inspiration can't get in. But I sat there and I said, speak to me. I call him Glenny Glenn. And I said, I'm not going anywhere until I hear from you. And I sat there, and a lot of times we want to judge. We want to judge our ideas. We want to judge the things that come through. And that's one of the things that keeps us from moving forward, right? We're judging it. We're afraid. But I sat there, probably 45 minutes in silence, watching the birds, looking at the squirrels. And all of a sudden, boom, I had my journal open and I started to hear. I started to hear his voice. And I wanted to say, no, D.I., that's the other name. You can call me D.I., and you won't get your full name called. Don't judge it, just write. And I wrote everything that I heard. And it was 6 pages. And as I read it, it was like I wasn't even fully conscious. It was like I was just writing. And then I came back and I read those words. And it was so, tears were just flowing down my face as I read those words, and they were much needed words. Can you imagine the blessing that I would have missed had I shut myself down from the inspiration, the call that said, be open, be open. He wants to talk to you. And so it's like one of my most treasured letters. So I invite you that when inspiration comes, be open. Be open. So, where was I? I got like in the spirit on that. So, sometimes it's interesting when I do these talks and I kind of get like so kind of caught up, so to speak. It's like I'm an observer of myself. Has anybody ever experienced that? It's like cool but weird at the same time. So the tip is to commit to short morning or evening rituals. You know, make it a practice. People think when we do a practice, it has to be, I got to do it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, or I'm not going to see results. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, even 1 minute, 1 mindful minute can change your life. So I invite you to practice doing moments of silence. And when you've got an attitude, get into gratitude. Okay? Every morning, or no, every dinner, the girls and I, we say our gratitudes. What are we grateful for today? Because that keeps you open to inspiration. So, the practical side of finding inspiration. Change your environment. Sometimes if you are in a house full of clutter, how many of you have a house full of clutter? You can be honest. It affects your mind to walk in and see that. It impacts you. I have it. Even that drawer, when I open that, we all have the one drawer. You just throw everything in there. Maybe few. Some of you have a few drawers. But, clutter is energy. And that clutter is impacting your energy. So it's important if you want to be inspired, if you want to call new things in, because we're moving into 2025, maybe what we want to do over this next few days is declutter, because we want to invite some newness into our lives. Get out into nature. We've had some pretty warm Minnesota days here. Get out into nature. Smell that crisp air. Do a walking meditation. Meditation doesn't have to just be sitting. I created a meditation CD during the pandemic, and it's all like a moving, because I like to move. I have a hard time sitting. So I did mine to moving. It gets dance as another way to move and find inspiration. Visit a museum if you're an artist and you're looking, you've got to, have some creativity because you've got a project. Go to a museum. And all these things are good if you work a job and you need to bring new ideas, new thoughts. All of this, no matter what you're doing, can bring inspiration into your life. Rearranging your furniture. Sometimes I do that, especially in my bedroom. Move my bed around, see how it feels energetically. And that's something to do for, might be helpful to learn some feng shui, and move things around in your apartment or your home. Self-care and well-being. Your physical health. How many of you know if you're tired, you don't have energy to think about being inspired? If you're not getting enough rest, how many of you are getting enough rest? 2 people, 3 people, 4, half a hand. Yeah, that's so important. I know when I don't get I have struggled with sleep, but thanks to I'm trying to chew this candy someone gave me. Was it you? Thank you. Sound therapy really helped me with sleep. And it actually wasn't even sound therapy. It was just a tuning fork that I was putting on my body every night, got me off of 24 years of Ambien. And when you don't have enough sleep, you're too tired to think. You're even if you're inspired, you're too tired to take action. And how many of you have to be inspired to get to the gym? I'm one of those. I need to be inspired, motivated, kicked, So these things keep us energized. The foods we put in our body, living foods, what are we putting in our bodies? And then the tip for this is set goals for yourself. Stay organized and allow room for creativity and play. How many of you have forgotten to play? Remember when we were kids? I like to have things to play with at my house. I have coloring books, coloring pencils, games. You got to get back and tap back into that little person. Because I always say, you've heard straight out of Compton. I say when you're little, you're straight out of heaven. So your creativity is, really up here. And as we get older, we start shutting that down. But when you start playing a little more, that's why I love having these girls. We have so much fun. One of the things we do is we have celebrity boyfriends, okay? We have celebrity boyfriends, and we pop into character. Like each one of us has an accent, and we pop into character, and that's fun. And that brings inspiration and joy into our lives. So it's so important to play. So, and I want to share with you where spiritual and practical meet by just sharing one of my own experiences. So 2 years ago, I had shared with you that I did the tuning fork on my heart and all over to help me with my sleep. So I've been tapping into sound therapy for, since 2007 in Savannah, Georgia. But when I lived in LA, I started going to sound baths more frequently. And when I moved here, I kept going to them. And all of a sudden, I got a divine inspiration and I was doing Reiki to open my own space. So I first started doing it in my home. I took one of my rooms and I turned it into a healing space. Then my girlfriend, she had a treatment with me and she was so blown away. So she went and she spoke to somebody at an acupuncturist she goes to, and she says, "Oh, Dorothy-Inez did this amazing treatment on me. You should have her in your office." I wasn't thinking about opening an actual studio. I can't afford that. So I went and I interviewed with him, and I decided, this isn't a good fit for me right now. And I had a mentor who I had worked with before the pandemic. I always wondered, where is she? I can't find her. I kept calling her. She'd never answer the phone, never call me back. I'm in this building in Bloomington, Minnesota, and I met her here. She actually used to have an office here in this building. And after I interviewed with this guy, I said to myself, man, I wish I could talk to so-and-so. She would know what to do. Should I do this thing with him or not? Okay, I had not talked to her in 3 years. The phone rings. Who is on my phone? And literally, I walked down the stairs to the car thinking, she calls me. And she says, "Dorothy-Inez, don't do it. Don't do the partnership with him. I can find you a space in this building." The same building on the 5th floor was a wellness center that I didn't know existed. And then she says to me, "Meet me tomorrow. I will connect you with so-and-so." I asked her, "Well, how much is it?" I said, she says, my room is $800. And I immediately began to talk myself out of it. How many of you have done that? As soon as you hear the price, right? You're inspired to do something, but somebody mentions money and you begin to talk yourself out of it. So I meet with the person, and he comes and tells me, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to meet with him, because you got to follow through with the inspiration. You got to take action, right? You never know what spirit is going to do. I'm telling you this in hopes that it will inspire you, okay? So I get there. She told me her room was $800. The room he showed me right across the hall from her was $400. So then I really started lighting up, and so I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to do this. But I don't have the money. I wasn't working. How am I going to do this? But I know I'm supposed to do it. So what did I do? What do you guys think I did? Did I do it? I signed the contract, and I trusted that somehow, some way, the money was going to show up. What am I showing you? Is that when you align yourself with the inspiration that comes through and you start taking action and you just trust, you just align your action with the thing, I promise it will work out. So, I got a job 2 weeks later. I didn't expect, my friend calls me up and she's like, "Di, we have an opening at the bank, blah, blah, do you want it?" 5 minutes from my house, 5 minutes from the studio. It's literally a triangle, okay? So now my space is funded, and I have a beautiful sound studio called the Shine Sanctuary. All because I trusted. I had faith. I put my fear, I was afraid, but I went through with it anyway. And now I have the opportunity to bless so many women. So when inspiration comes to you, you have to be open to the possibilities, because there's so much growth in the stepping into. It builds your faith, it builds your confidence. It is a powerful thing to step into it. And I couldn't leave my guy out. You guys know him? Yeah, I got his earrings on. You know, what have you been inspired to do or create but haven't taken action on? And I put Prince up here. Number one, I love him. Number two is because he is the epitome of inspiration. He has enough music in his vault for over 100 years to be released. Why? Because he was always stepping in to the inspiration. He was being obedient to what wanted to be birthed through him. What wants to be birthed through you? Because you are the vessel. What wants to come forth through the gift called you? Because it chose you. The idea chose you. Are you going to sit on it? Are you going to be afraid? What will you do? So how do we overcome the blocks? The common blocks we talked about: fear, self-doubt, perfectionism, judgment of the ideas, your mindset, I can't, I don't have, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, all the not enoughs. And then lack of clarity, being clear on the idea, being clear, because see, when you're clear about why you're here, also, that helps you to step into it. So some of the tools we've talked about: prayer, meditation, reading spiritual text. I shared with you that I went on a retreat. Nature. And I put praise and worship here, because praising and worshiping, using our voice, it helps us to connect. I know for me, I don't connect when I used to go to church, and sometimes when I go now, I'll tell the girls, oh, I don't want to hear the sermon, I just want to hear the singing. Because it's the singing that connects me to the spirit, the vibration. I begin to feel those chills going through my body, and then I am inspired because I'm feeling spirit all over me through the energy of being in community and worshiping through my voice. Because our voice is a sound instrument. It's a tool. Practical tools, breaking patterns. You know, if you have a certain way, you catch yourself, like I was telling the girls, I have cycles of inspiration. I was explaining to Lola yesterday, I said, I'm inspired always in the fall, and then I go into the winter to like January, like from October to December, that's inspiration. Ideas for summer, they're flowing through me. You got to recognize your patterns, your cycles. And then I know that when summer comes, towards the end of summer, I start falling off. I'm like, I'm bored. I don't feel like doing it anymore. Maybe that's a time to rest. That's your time to hibernate. Know your cycles. And then be clear about why you're doing something. And I'm going to take weight for an example. It's hard to stay inspired to lose weight when you like to eat, right? You know? So, what's your why? What's the thing that really is going to move you to follow through with that inspiration? If you're inspired to lose weight, what's going to inspire you to not do the McDonald's today and maybe go home and create a beautiful meal for yourself? What's the why behind it? Setting boundaries. When you're inspired and you have something you need to do, how many of you know you got to sometimes cut people off? And then the people that are bringing you down, that's why you don't want to share your inspirations with everybody. Okay? There's a scripture that says, don't throw your pearls before swine. Some things you have to keep to yourself or be choosy about who you share them with, because you want people that are going to support you in those. So you've got to set boundaries, play, collaborate. Try a guided art project, like a paint by number. You know, sometimes people go, oh, I'm not creative. Well, go do something like paint by number, and you'll find that as you're doing those things, new ideas pop up for you. Listen to music, journal, have a coloring book. How many of you have coloring books at home in Crayolas? Good, I knew you would, Miss Ella. Yeah, they're fun. It takes you back into that phase in your mind. And how many of you are using AI? AI is a great way. A lot of people our age, I keep hearing everybody's scared of AI. It's all about how you use it. It can really help with getting some really cool ideas. You tell it, so you can give it a prompt, tell it what you're thinking, and it can give you back some really great ideas. So here's some exercises that you guys can do. Doing guided meditations, visualizations, journaling prompts. There's a really good deck that I have. It's called Truth Something, an oracle deck that I have that asks you really great questions that help with your journaling. And journaling, you know, a lot of times we think of journaling like we have to write something. How many of you struggle with writing stuff? I know I do. So sometimes that's why I have a lot of art supplies. You can draw, you can scribble. You know, sometimes you're just so angry, you can't write. Well, maybe you just go over I have this big pad. You just go over and scribble on it in different colors and get it all out. And even your choice of colors is sharing something with you about yourself, what's going on the inside. Being intentional. Setting an intention a week ahead or 2 days ahead, whatever, being intentional that you are going to be in action. Commit to yourself to be in action. Do you want your 2025 to look like your 2024? I mean, it can if you want it to. And you can say, yeah, I want to make a change, but if you don't make a plan, you don't get into action, I'll see you guys this time next year, and you'll be in the same space. Because if you're like me, and the girls hate when I tell them this, I have less years ahead than I do behind. So I don't have time to F around with life. I'm here to make a difference, and I know you're here too by the very fact that you're alive. Everyone is here on purpose, for a purpose. You're here to make a difference. Create an inspirational playlist. Find music. If you got to get to that gym and you hate it, maybe you need to create some musical playlist or get a podcast on that whoops you into shape, you know, and makes you get up and reminds you who you are. YouTube is great for that. You get up in the morning, you put on your, you know, those little inspirational, motivational things where the guy's talking and the cool music behind. And then another thing is, as you get inspiration, I don't know about you, but as I'm getting older, my memory is not the same, okay? So I use my phone and the Notes app, and I'll tell my phone if ideas come through. Or maybe you're old school, you can have the little memo, the little small book, and just keep it in your pocket for inspiration. And again, AI can give you inspiration. If you're like me, I'm a content creator, and sometimes I don't have, I'm like, I've done that already, I'll go over to my I call her Janet. I've named her, and she's named after Janet, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. So Janet knows when I open her up, she goes, "Hi, Dorothy-Inez, how can I help you today?" And I'll tell her, "Well, Janet, I need to create some content on self-care about this particular topic, and I want the women to know blah, 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 blah." 10 seconds or less. She's creative. If it doesn't sound like me, I go, "Janet, that doesn't sound like me too much. Can you put a little more of this, a little more of that?" Boom. And the more you work with Janet, Janet gets to know you. And it becomes easier. It's like, don't be afraid to use your tools. Okay? Because they're not going away. So, in conclusion, inspiration can be found both spiritually and physically. I hope you've been able to see that. And I invite you to take action starting this coming week, because New Year's is what, Wednesday? Take time today, tomorrow, to think about how do you want to shift your year? What inspired, in spirit, action are you going to take to make a difference? Inspiration is everywhere. Right here in this room, right here in this, looking at an empty chair. Somebody was inspired to make that chair that you're sitting on. So, allow yourself to see it, to embrace it, and to take action on it. So this is Dorothy-Inez, and I'm done.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy-Inez. I must still be in trouble. Now is the time that we ask you to open your hearts and your wallets and consider donating to Lake Harriet Spiritual Community. We rely on your generous donations to offer you these amazing events and speakers. Our friend John will be here around to collect donation, and I hear there's a good karma in there for you, so you don't want to miss out on that perk.
Say it's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right. Oh, it's all right.
Now listen to the beat and kind of pat your feet.
You got soul,
And everybody knows,
and it's all right.
oh, it's all right.
When you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad like so many of us do.
Just hum a little song, make life go. And
Surely something's gotta come to you. Say it's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right.
have a good time,
'Cause it's all right. Oh, it's all right.
now everybody clap your hands. Give yourself a chance.
You've got soul.
And everybody knows that it's all right. Oh, it's all right.
Whoa,
Gary, for that nice upbeat song. Thank you, John, for your collection. And we'd like to bless our offering today, and I felt inspired to kind of create a special blessing today as we gather for the final Sunday in 2024. So we'll do it a little bit differently today. So if you'd like to repeat after me. We bless this offering and honor its power to create. In giving, may abundance flow back to us all. May this exchange of good fortune bring harmony, peace, and prosperity to us all. Thank you. And now we'll hand it back over to Dorothy-Inez to lead a final circle.
Yes.
So if we want to circle up and around, I don't know, Gary, are we thinking about 3 or 4 rows back? We're just going to gather in circle, and Dorothy will close our... Dorothy-Inez will... Here, I got your hand right here.
All right. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for choosing to be here today in Sacred Circle and community. And I just want to say that I just pray that as you move into 2025, that you will tap into the inspiration within you and bring that which wants to be birthed through you to the world. And I always like to end with my favorite song, This Little Light of Mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you so much, everyone. Peace and blessings.